The biggest secret: do reptilian-human hybrids run our world? Controversy has become the mantra of the whirlwind that is David Icke's life over the past few decades. Since the early 90s, he has challenged people's parameters of reality, suggesting that all is not what it seems in regards to how our world is run. David's verdict is clear: the people that lie at the top of our power structures are hiding a sinister secret, one that would make anyone sound crazy if it were verbalized. Since the dawn of civilized man, the ruling class have been controlled by extraterrestrial/dimensional beings, with an agenda which ultimately establishes the human race as mindless and robotic slaves to a system based on fear and control. It is easy to see why this theory has attracted so much backlash. Grew up in Leicester, England, where he spent his childhood playing football, eventually making it a profession in his early adult life. After developing rheumatoid arthritis in his knees, which eventually spread throughout his body, Icke moved into sports broadcasting, working his way up through BBC radio and television. In the late 80s, David began exploring alternative medicine to treat his arthritis, and it was during this time that he developed an interest in the Green Party. After being fired from the BBC over controversy surrounding his taxes, he moved into politics and became a leading figure for the Green Party. Icke admits that it was around this challenging era in his life that he began to feel a presence around him, which in time started communicating messages to him. This led Icke down a spiritual path which also sparked a curiosity surrounding some serious conspiracy theories. After being guided to Peru by the being, Icke underwent a massive spiritual awakening, returning to England and quitting politics. Mommy_Wada_poster Icke made an infamous appearance on a national television talk show in 1991 where he announced to the world that he was being channeled information which warned him of impending devastation by natural disasters. The ridicule which proceeded after the interview was said by Icke to be a nightmare for him and his family. He couldn't walk down the street without being laughed at. Icke later states that the laughter had set him free in a sense, allowing him to move forward with his messages to the world without now having worry about what people thought about him. In the decade that followed, Icke pumped out book after book, traveling the world giving long lectures on the nature of reality, testing people's truths in regards to who is really running our world. Today Icke leads a similar schedule, having just completed his 8-hour arena world tour which was sold out in multiple countries. During the extended lecture he touches upon topics such as the holographic universe, the pseudo-moon matrix, and his most infamous theory regarding a reptilian hybrid race that is controlling our world. To begin to explain the complex theory, Icke discusses the current fear state of our world. Presenting at his arena tour in 2011. The fear of what other people think is the state of perception that stops people from making a difference. You can only make a difference in a world of uniformity if you operate outside of that uniformity. We either take that on or we don't, in which case nothing changes. We are now at this place where we can go down one track and experience freedom like we've never even understood what freedom is. We go down the other one, the one that the control structure wants, then we're headed for an Orwellian fascist global state. David Icke, The Lion Sleeps No More. Proposes that mankind has been manipulated to become unconscious through the use of programming by media and politics, the tyrannical control over our food, water, and air supply, the dumbing down of the masses by pharmaceutical drugs and alcohol, and the list goes on. But the manipulation doesn't stop there, as Icke states about exploring the never-ending depths of the rabbit hole. The ruling class, the bankers, the royal family, the presidents and prime ministers, have created the illusion of being separate ruling bodies when in fact they have always been on the same team of sorts. There is a bloodline that has been strategically kept intact for ages. The Burke's peerage and baronetage, a comprehensive aristocratic genealogy resource, reveals that all 44 U.S. presidents have carried European royal bloodlines into office over the course of history. This includes Bill Clinton, the Bush family, Barack Obama, John Kerry, and so on and so forth. 6. If we truly live in a democratic system, how is it that every single person brought into office has been of French and European royal descent? What are the chances of this considering the US fought for their independence of Europe in the 1700s? The Burke's peerage makes a strong suggestion that elections are not really based on a public voting system, but rather they are based upon the highest percentage of royal genes. To make things even more peculiar is the fact that Brad Pitt, Madonna, Marilyn Monroe, and Tom Hanks, some of Hollywood's biggest stars, also descend from this lineage. What could all of this imply? Goes on to illuminate the theory of quantum physics, which states that our physical reality is a projection within our mind, and that at the most basic quantum level, the solidity of matter is false, existing as vibrations instead of atoms. When the light from matter reflects into our eyes, the cells pick up the light, which travels as a wavelength measured from 390 nanometers to 700 nanometers, the visible light spectrum, and transmutes the vibrations or waveforms into an image within the brain. This is the same for sound. It is a vibration until it is decoded by the brain. Suddenly the matrix plot doesn't seem so far-fetched. The human brain can only see an extremely limited spectrum of energy. As we know, there are a plethora of different forms of energy in our universe and thousands of different frequencies around us at any given moment that we cannot see, such as radio and radiation waves. Suggests that TTs and other beings exist in our universe, but they operate at a frequency just above what the human mind is said to be able to detect. 3. This could explain the strange sightings of UFOs that seem to appear and disappear in an instant. Could it be that the UFOs or ETs are advanced enough that they can raise or lower their frequency to come in and out of the visible light frequency spectrum? This is something that says the ruling elite are aware of. Knowledge that is used to manipulate mankind into thinking that our experience is limited to a 3D reality. Says the reptilians control the globalists extra-dimensionally through the manipulation of human DNA. It is no secret today that the world is ruled by money and power. Corporations and banks have more power than the people do, and this is something that is beginning to become recognized by a large majority of the population. There is a world government which oversees the regulation of the entire planet and all of its systems, says. This world government is called the Illuminati by many, although there are multiple names for the different levels of this organization. Behind the closed doors at the highest levels of government, secret societies rule with malevolence. The problem is that anyone who learns this information and speaks out publicly as a leading force against these secret societies is quickly silenced. John Kennedy's assassination is a perfect example of this. In his famous last speech, not too long before he was shot, he touches upon the subject of the secret ruling class. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. John F. Kennedy 8. In his arena tour, discusses the disturbing events that take place behind closed doors at the annual meeting of the global leaders. They follow a religion that dates back to the beginning of civilization, he states. The secret societies take part in and worship a pocket of consciousness, that most call Satanism, in which they perform esoteric rituals that entail ceremonial chanting, gratuitous sexual activities, and even blood sacrifice. Colludes to this in his seminar correlating the globalist cult to the chain of missing children and underground world of sex trafficking. The Catholic Church is a big player in this disturbing hidden world, says. Earlier in 2013, Pope Benedict XVI became the first pope to resign since the 1400s. Some argue that the real reason was due to Benedict being blackmailed for surfacing information about the Catholic Church's ritual abuse of children and homosexuality within the Vatican. 7. Neil Brick, a victim of satanic ritual abuse, founded SMART, Stop Mind Control and Ritual Abuse Today, in 1995, an organization which aims to expose and put to an end to the ritual abuse of children by the Vatican and other secret power circles. Neil states that thousands of children are captured each year and are manipulated through mind control to perform grotesque acts involving sex and torture. 5. Kristen Oksana's 1994 book, Safe Passage to Healing, expands on this topic. Ritual abuse usually involves repeated abuse over an extended period of time. The physical abuse is severe, sometimes including torture and killing. The sexual abuse is usually painful, humiliating, intended as means of gaining dominance over the victim. The psychological abuse is devastating and involves the use of ritual indoctrination. It includes mind control techniques which convey to the victim a profound terror of the cult members. Most victims are in a state of terror, mind control and dissociation. Kristen Oksana, Safe Passage to Healing. Many have come forward with unsettling stories about their abuse by different power circles such as the Vatican or the secret men's clubs like the one held annually at Bohemian Grove in California. This information may be difficult to process for most. Human beings are naturally compassionate for one another. We don't want to believe that these sorts of things happen, especially not by the hands of the people that we've elected to power. So what could be the true reason behind these real-life horror movie stories? Says that it goes far beyond the physical constraints of the visible light spectrum. Alex Jones' secret footage of a Bohemian Grove ritual. We are clearly massively missing the point. The vast majority who investigate this will not go any further. Because A, their belief systems won't let them, and B, they fear what other people will think about them. There is the level we see unfolding in the news, and then there is the other dimensional non-human level. The rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper. It is all about the control and programming of perception. At one level we see the dark suits sitting at the big round table making the decisions. Then at the next we have the secret societies, and then we go beyond the frequency of visible light. Satanism is a network that interacts with the beings that are controlling our vibrational state from a frequency above us. Wolfgang and the Devil, Michael Packer, 1483. Note the reptilian form the devil takes on. Says that these extra-dimensional beings that the globalists worship stem from the constellations Orion, Sirius, and Draco. Thousands of years ago, the reptilian beings intervened on planet Earth and began interbreeding with humans. Not physically, however, but rather through the manipulation of the human coding, or DNA. States that it is no coincidence that humans have fundamental reptilian genetics within their brain. He refers to an excerpt from the Bible, which hints at the crossbreeding of men and gods. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the songs of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Genesis 6-4. The serpent intervenes, leading to the fall of man. Connects more biblical stories to the intervention of the reptilian race. He alludes to the fall of man, the story of how Adam and Eve became manipulated by the serpent. The reason, he goes on to say, that 95% of human DNA and a large majority of our brain goes unused is due to this intervention of the reptilian race, placing a limitation on our potential as conscious beings. These beings were more advanced in the technological sense, seeing our DNA as software which could be tainted with, creating a hybrid middleman to control the human population within the visible light spectrum. Half human and half reptilian, they were perceived as demigods at the time by the people. He explains that the caduceus, the common medical symbol we see today, is based around this DNA manipulation. The caduceus contains two serpents spiraling around a scepter that has wings, in the shape of the double helix DNA strand. Because these hybrids at the time possessed knowledge that most didn't, they were able to slip into positions of power, specifically in the ancient areas of Sumer, Babylon, and Mesopotamia. As these areas began to separate and colonize elsewhere, the reptilian bloodlines spread out, becoming the royal families of the world. This is said to be why the royal family maintains their genetics. Similarly, the ancient Chinese emperors believed they had the divine right to rule because they were connected to the serpent gods. Icke says there is a common theme between royalty and serpent worship around the world. This can be seen in early images of ancient cultures such as the Hindus, Cambodians, Greeks, Nordics, Africans, Native Americans, Koreans, and Australians to name a few. Icke recounts in his seminar about his discussions with Credo Mutwa, a South African-based Zulu shaman, during which Mutwa tells of African legends about the Chitauri, the reptilian-like gods who ascended from the heavens in monstrous vessels which burned through the atmosphere. These so-called gods became the dictators of the people, taking away the potentiality and power of the human race. One other thing that our people say is that the Chitauri prey upon us like vultures. They raise some of us. They fill some of us with great anger and great ambition. And they make these people they've raised into great warriors who make terrible war. But, in the end, the Chitauri do not allow these great leaders, these great war chiefs and kings, to die peacefully. The warrior chief is used to make as much war as possible, to kill as many of his people and those he calls enemies, and then, in the end, the warrior chief dies a terrible death, with his blood being spilled by others. 2. Credo Mutwa on the reptilian hybrid leaders. Over time these bloodlines created a sort of transnational web of control, and as history progressed they rooted themselves deeper and deeper into the systems and structures that were developed by man. Today they make up the secret societies, Illuminati, etc., which pull the strings in regards to the direction that society follows. They have created the ultimate prison, one without bars, with the illusion of freedom keeping the masses from wanting to escape. They have created illusory lines separating countries to cause segregation among the people who are ignorant to the truth. They have created massive distractions with media, politics and entertainment, and they have dumbed down the general population through the poisoning of our food, air, and water supply. So what is the ultimate goal of these hybrid bloodlines? Some argue it was originally for our planet's supply of gold, which they need to stabilize the atmosphere of their own planet. Others suggest that it more has to do with tyranny. The New World Order, NWO, isn't a new concept to most. In the early 90s, President Bush publicly announced that the NWO was the eventual goal for the United States. A NWO is not the peaceful state of freedom that these leaders try to present it as. The NWO is an Orwellian state based around absolute control in which the population is maintained under 500,000 million people. It takes away the power of the public, turning them into mindless robots who do the bidding of the fortunate ruling class, a more extreme case of the current state of the world. It is a one-world government that calls all the shots. This is what the hybrids want, power and control. Whatever the intention is behind the control structures, it is obvious that it is not in harmony with the well-being of mankind or the planet. Ends his seminar with a glimpse of hope for humanity, stating that it's time for humanity to get up off of our knees and to take matters back into our own hands. What if vast numbers of people say, well, we're not doing it? They'd have no power whatsoever. Their power comes in our acquiescence. What we need isn't compliance, what we need is a global non-compliance. They cannot grant our freedom, nor can they take it away. David Icke's theories may be difficult to grasp for some, but what is undeniable is the fact that when you listen to his propositions, he makes a damn good argument with his case. In the end, it is up to you to decide what truth you wish to believe. Here at Collective Evolution we encourage you to do your own research. This is a time of great change in the world. The people have begun to wake up, deciding for themselves what resonates as truth and what doesn't. We live in an era of mass information sharing, thanks to advent of the internet. People are connecting from all over the world to share knowledge and create change on a massive scale. The most important thing for each of us to do during this time is to become informed as much as possible. Ultimately, it is we who have the power to create what we want as a society. When we tune into our true potential, anything is possible. Fear will not create this change, it will only feed the old systems which the ruling class have already established. Love will be the forerunner for the fast approaching new earth.